The thing about betrayal is that it never announces itself with fanfare. It creeps up on you like a slow gas leak, poisoning everything, until one day you wake up and realize your whole life has been suffocating you. I'm Hayes Rellin, 43 years old, systems analyst at Trenwall Innovations, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had a pretty decent marriage. Sure, Bree and I had our problems. What couple doesn't after 18 years? But I figured we were solid. Turns out I was about as wrong as a man can be without actually being declared legally incompetent. The revelation came at the company's quarterly celebration party, held on the rooftop bar of the Meridian Hotel downtown. Edgewater City spread out below us like a circuit board, all glowing lines and pulsing lights. I was nursing my second beer and watching my wife work the crowd when she decided to entertain everyone with what she apparently considered hilarious anecdotes about our personal life. "Oh, Hayes," Bree's voice carried across the conversation circle like fingernails on a chalkboard. "He's been having some performance issues lately. I keep telling him it's not the equipment, it's the operator." The laughter that followed felt like ice water in my veins. Not the polite, uncomfortable chuckles you'd expect from coworkers forced to listen to someone's marital dirty laundry, but genuine, mean-spirited amusement. These people had clearly heard this routine before. I stood there, beer halfway to my lips, watching my wife of 18 years destroy what remained of my dignity for the entertainment of her colleagues. Bree caught my eye across the circle and had the audacity to wink at me, as if we were sharing some private joke instead of her publicly castrating me. "Bree," I said quietly, "can I talk to you for a minute?" "Oh, come on, Hayes. Don't be such a sensitive flower. Everyone here is married. We all have our little problems, right?" She gestured around the circle, and I noticed how several people avoided making eye contact with me. That's when Helena Trenwall materialized beside me like some kind of corporate guardian angel. Helena was Bree's boss, the CEO of Trenwall Innovations, and at 55, she commanded respect in a way that made grown executives stammer like schoolchildren. She was tall, sharp-featured, with silver hair that she wore like a crown and eyes that could dissect your soul in quarterly reports. "Actually, Bree," Helena said, her voice cutting through the conversation like a scalpel, "I think Hayes has the right idea. Professional gatherings probably aren't the best venue for intimate relationship discussions." The circle went quiet. Bree's face flushed red, but she managed to laugh it off. "Of course, you're absolutely right. I was just being inappropriate," Helena finished smoothly. She placed her hand on my arm, a gesture that somehow managed to be both comforting and commanding. "Hayes, walk with me." As we moved away from the group, I could feel the weight of dozens of eyes following us. Helena led me to a quieter corner of the rooftop, where the city lights provided a backdrop that made everything feel surreal. "I owe you an apology," she said without preamble. "You? For what?" "For not addressing this sooner. Your wife's behavior toward you at company functions has been noted by myself and others." Helena's voice was crisp, professional, but there was something else underneath it. Something that sounded almost like anger. I stared at her. "I don't understand. Hayes, you've been with the company for 8 years. Your work is exemplary, your technical skills are invaluable, and your professionalism is beyond reproach. The way you've been treated, particularly by certain members of our project management team, is unacceptable." The world seemed to tilt slightly. "Certain members?" Helena's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Did you really think we don't monitor our internal communications? That we don't notice when project timelines mysteriously shift, when technical requirements get misplaced, when someone's work gets consistently undermined?" My mouth went dry. For months, I'd been experiencing what I'd assumed were just the normal frustrations of corporate life. Emails that disappeared from my inbox, meeting invitations that never arrived, technical specifications that changed without notice, making my work look sloppy or incomplete. I'd started keeping my own copies of everything, backing up emails to my personal server, documenting every conversation. I'd thought I was being paranoid. You knew? I suspected. Now I know. Helena's expression softened slightly. Hayes, effective Monday morning, Bree will no longer be employed by Trenwall Innovations. Her position as project manager is being terminated for cause. I wanted you to hear it from me first. The rooftop suddenly felt like it was spinning. What cause? Sabotage of a colleague's work. Deliberate interference with project timelines. Misappropriation of company resources for personal use. Shall I continue? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I couldn't speak. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. I'd known something was wrong, had felt like I was going crazy for months. But another part of me felt like I was watching my life explode in slow motion. There's more, Helena continued. Your wife has been using company resources to conduct personal business, including maintaining relationships that could be considered conflicts of interest. Relationships? Helena's expression was almost pitying. Hayes, I'm sorry. But yes, your wife has been having an affair with Nate Voss from our development team. They've been using company meeting rooms, company time, and company equipment to facilitate their relationship. We have documentation going back 4 months. The words hit me like a physical blow. Nate Voss. I knew him. Cocky guy in his early 30s, always talking about his CrossFit routine and his Tesla. He called himself a Scrum Master, which, as far as I could tell, meant he spent most of his time in meetings talking about other meetings. 4 months, I repeated numbly. I'm sorry, Hayes. I truly am. Helena paused, studying my face. But I want you to know that this doesn't reflect on you in any way. In fact, I've been considering offering you a position with more responsibility. Your technical skills are exactly what this company needs, moving forward. I looked back toward the party, where I could see Bree holding court with another group, probably sharing more hilarious stories about her pathetic husband. She was laughing, her head thrown back, looking more animated and happy than I'd seen her in years. She doesn't know yet, I said. It wasn't a question. No, I thought you should have the weekend to prepare yourself. I'll be calling her into my office first thing Monday morning. Helena handed me her business card. My personal number is on the back. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to call. As she walked away, I stood alone at the edge of the rooftop, looking down at the city below. 20 stories up, the people on the sidewalks looked like ants, scurrying around with their little ant problems and their little ant lives. I wondered if this was how God felt most of the time, watching people make terrible decisions and wondering whether to intervene or just let them destroy themselves. My phone buzzed, a text message from a number I didn't recognize. You made a big mistake tonight, man. Watch your back. I stared at the message for a long moment, then looked back toward the party. Bree was still laughing, still entertaining her audience. But now I noticed Nate Voss standing near the bar, his phone in his hand, watching me. I typed back, "The only mistake I made was taking 18 years to figure out what everyone else already knew." Then I deleted his number, finished my beer, and started planning my revenge. The thing about being a systems analyst is that people underestimate you. They see someone who spends their day staring at code and assume you're some kind of antisocial cave dweller who couldn't manipulate a vending machine, let alone actual human beings. They forget that analyzing systems, whether they're made of code or people, requires the same skill set: patience, attention to detail, and the ability to find patterns that others miss. I spent the weekend doing what I do best, gathering data. Saturday morning, while Bree slept off what she claimed was a migraine but smelled suspiciously like tequila, I accessed our home network and started pulling logs from our router. Amazing what you can learn from metadata. Nate's phone had been connecting to our Wi-Fi regularly for the past 4 months, always during times when I was at work and Bree was supposedly working from home. The timestamps told a story that made my stomach turn. Tuesday afternoons, Thursday mornings, Friday evenings when I was at my weekly poker game with the guys from my old programming job. They'd been using my house, my Wi-Fi, probably my bed. I also found something interesting in Bree's cloud backup. She'd been sloppy about her digital security, probably assuming I was too technologically illiterate to know how to access her accounts. She was wrong about that, too. Text messages between her and Nate going back 6 months. Photos I really wished I hadn't seen. But more importantly, conversations about me that revealed just how deep this betrayal went. "Hayes is so clueless," one message read. "I could probably bring you to dinner and he'd just assume you were a new coworker." "Does he suspect anything?" Nate had replied. "Are you kidding? The man can barely figure out how to use the coffee maker. He's completely oblivious." "What about the stuff at work? Think he's noticed?" "He mentioned something about missing emails, but I just told him the IT department was having issues. He bought it completely. God, sometimes I think I married a robot." I sat in my home office, staring at the screen, feeling something cold and sharp crystallizing in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something more calculating than that. Something that felt almost like relief. For months, I'd been questioning my own sanity, wondering if I was becoming paranoid, if the stress of middle age was making me imagine problems that didn't exist. Now I knew the truth. I hadn't been paranoid enough. My phone rang. The caller ID showed my daughter Sophie's number. "Hey, Dad, how was the party last night?" Sophie was 20, a junior at State University studying communications. She was smart, ambitious, and had inherited her mother's ability to charm her way through any situation. She was also the one person in my life I still trusted completely. "It was educational," I said carefully. "How's school?" "Good. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about something. Mom called me this morning and she seemed really upset about something. She wouldn't tell me what, but she kept asking weird questions about you, like whether you'd seemed different lately or if you'd mentioned anything about work problems." I felt my jaw clench. "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you seem fine to me, but then again, we only talk once a week." Sophie paused. "Dad, is everything okay? You sound weird." "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Your mom's probably just stressed about work." "Okay, but, Dad, if something was wrong, you'd tell me, right? I mean, I'm not a kid anymore. I can handle whatever's going on." The trust in her voice almost broke my resolve. Sophie adored her mother, looked up to her as a role model of professional success and independence. Learning the truth about Bree would devastate her. "Of course I would," I lied. "But there's nothing to worry about." After I hung up, I sat in the silence of my office, surrounded by the detritus of my investigation. Printed emails, network logs, bank statements showing charges for hotel rooms, and restaurants that Bree had claimed were client meetings. The evidence of my wife's betrayal spread across my desk like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that formed a picture I'd been too naive to see. That's when I heard the garage door opening. Bree was back from wherever she'd gone, probably to warn Nate about Helena's conversation with me the night before. I quickly gathered up the papers and locked them in my desk drawer, then opened up a work project on my computer. By the time Bree appeared in my office doorway, I looked like exactly what she expected. Her clueless husband, buried in code, oblivious to the world around him. "Hey," she said, leaning against the doorframe. She was wearing yoga pants and a tank top, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Under different circumstances, I might have found her attractive. Now, all I could see was the deception in her smile. "Hey yourself, feeling better?" "Much. I think I just needed some fresh air." She stepped into the office, moving closer to my desk. "Hayes, about last night. I think I might have had a little too much to drink. If I said anything that embarrassed you, I'm sorry. I looked up at her, studying her face. She was good. I had to give her credit for that. The apology seemed genuine, her expression appropriately contrite. If I hadn't spent the morning reading her text messages about what an idiot she thought I was, I might have actually believed her. Don't worry about it, I said. I know you didn't mean anything by it. Relief flooded her features. Good. I was worried you might be upset. Why would I be upset? We're married. If you can't joke about your husband, who can you joke about? She laughed, the sound bright and musical. Exactly. You get it. She moved behind my chair and put her hands on my shoulders, massaging gently. This is why I love you, Hayes. You're so understanding. Her touch made my skin crawl, but I forced myself to remain still. What are you working on today? Oh, just some project management stuff. Boring spreadsheets and timeline adjustments. Her hands stilled for a moment. Actually, I might need to go into the office for a few hours tomorrow. Sunday, I know, but we're behind on a few deliverables. On Sunday? That seems unusual. Yeah, well, Helena's been pushing everyone pretty hard lately. You know how she is. All work, no life. Bree's voice carried just a hint of bitterness. I nodded sympathetically. She did seem a little intense last night. Intense is one word for it. Sometimes I think she forgets that we're human beings, not machines. Bree's hands resumed their massage, but there was tension in her fingers now. Did she say anything to you? When you two were talking? Not really. Just small talk about the company, how long I'd been there, that sort of thing. Nothing about me? I turned in my chair to look at her directly. Should she have said something about you? No, of course not. She's been acting strange lately. More critical than usual. I'm probably just being paranoid. I'm sure it's nothing, I said, giving her my most reassuring smile. You're one of their best project managers. Helena would be crazy to have any complaints about your work. You really think so? Absolutely. I stood up and kissed her forehead, the gesture requiring every ounce of self-control I possessed. I'm going to grab some lunch. Want anything? No, I'm fine. I think I'll take a bath and maybe read for a while. As I left the house, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Marcus Stash Williams answered on the second ring. Hayes, long time no talk, brother. What's going on? Stash owned a boxing gym in the warehouse district, a no-frills operation that catered to serious fighters and guys like me who needed somewhere to work out their frustrations without judgment. I'd been training there on and off for 5 years, ever since I'd decided that sitting at a desk all day was slowly destroying my body. I need to hit something, I said. Hard, repeatedly. Stash chuckled. Rough week? You could say that. Are you open? For you, always. Come on down. I'll set you up with the heavy bag. 20 minutes later, I was wrapping my hands in the familiar ritual that preceded every workout. The gym smelled like sweat, leather, and determination, honest smells that cut through the artificial politeness of corporate life like a knife through tissue paper. So, Stash said, holding the heavy bag steady while I warmed up with light jabs, you want to talk about what's eating you, or do you just want to beat the hell out of this bag until you feel better? The second option sounds good for now. Fair enough, but Hayes, whatever it is, don't let it poison you. Anger's like acid. It destroys the container more than whatever you pour it on. I nodded, but privately disagreed. Sometimes anger was exactly what you needed. Sometimes it was the only thing that could burn away 18 years of lies and give you the clarity to see what needed to be done. I spent the next hour turning that heavy bag into my personal therapy session, each punch driving home another piece of the truth I'd been avoiding. Bree didn't love me. Maybe she never had. Our marriage was a convenience, a cover story that allowed her to play house while she figured out what she really wanted. Well, now I knew what I really wanted too. I wanted her to understand exactly how it felt to have your life destroyed by someone you trusted, and I was going to make sure she got a very thorough education. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October air that makes you think about new beginnings and fresh starts. I was already at my desk by 7:30, ostensibly reviewing code, but actually watching the office fill up with my unsuspecting colleagues. Bree hadn't come home Sunday night. She'd texted around 9 p.m. claiming she was pulling an all-nighter at the office and would probably just sleep on the couch in the break room rather than drive home exhausted. I'd responded with understanding and concern, playing the worried husband role to perfection. Of course, I knew exactly where she was. Nate's apartment complex had excellent Wi-Fi coverage, and Bree's phone had been connected to his network since Saturday afternoon. At 8:45, Helena's assistant sent out an email requesting that Bree report to the executive conference room immediately upon arrival. I watched from my cubicle as Bree hurried past, looking harried and slightly rumpled in yesterday's clothes. She caught my eye and gave me a quick wave, mouthing "big meeting," with an expression that suggested she thought this might be good news. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. 15 minutes later, security was escorting her out of the building with a cardboard box containing her personal effects. The entire office watched in stunned silence as Bree Rellin, one of Trenwall's most successful project managers, was perp-walked through the cubicle maze like a common criminal. She looked directly at me as she passed my desk, her eyes wide with shock and something that might have been betrayal. I gave her the same supportive, confused expression that everyone else was wearing, the look of a loyal husband who couldn't understand why this was happening to his wife. "Hayes Rellin?" Helena's assistant appeared at my cubicle. "Ms. Trenwall would like to see you in her office." The walk to Helena's office felt like a funeral march. My coworkers watched me pass with the kind of morbid fascination usually reserved for traffic accidents. I could practically hear them thinking, first the wife, now the husband. Whatever Bree had done, I was probably guilty by association. Helena's office occupied the entire northwest corner of the building, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a commanding view of downtown Edgewater. She was standing with her back to the door when I entered, silhouetted against the morning sky like some kind of corporate deity. "Close the door, Hayes. Have a seat." I settled into one of the leather chairs facing her desk, trying to project the right mixture of confusion and concern. "Helena, what's going on? I saw Bree being escorted out and—" "Your wife has been terminated for cause," Helena said, turning to face me. "As I mentioned Friday evening, we discovered evidence of sabotage, misuse of company resources, and conduct detrimental to the organization." "I don't understand. Sabotage?" Helena moved to her desk and picked up a thick folder. "Your wife has been systematically undermining your work for the past 6 months, deleting emails, changing project specifications, altering meeting schedules. She's also been using company resources to conduct a personal relationship with Nathan Voss, who was terminated this morning as well." I let my face go through what I hoped looked like the appropriate sequence of emotions: confusion, disbelief, dawning comprehension, and finally, hurt betrayal. "Nate Voss? But are you saying they were having an affair?" "Yes. I'm sorry, Hayes. I know this must be devastating." I stared at the folder in her hands, wondering what other evidence they'd managed to compile beyond what I already knew. "How long have you known?" "We began investigating irregularities in project timelines about 2 months ago. When we started looking more closely at the patterns, your name kept coming up as the common factor in projects that were failing or running behind schedule. But the deeper we dug, the more obvious it became that you weren't the problem, you were the target." Helena opened the folder and spread several documents across her desk: email logs, security camera footage timestamps, keycard access records, a comprehensive picture of systematic professional sabotage. "Your wife was very clever about it," Helena continued. "Never anything obvious enough to trigger immediate attention. Just a steady pattern of small obstacles designed to make you look incompetent or unreliable." "But why? What did she have to gain?" That's where Nathan Voss comes in. He was being considered for a promotion to senior development manager, a position that would have put him in direct competition with you for future advancement opportunities. By undermining your reputation, your wife was clearing the path for her boyfriend's career progression. The elegant simplicity of it was almost admirable. Destroy my credibility at work while destroying my confidence at home, creating a perfect storm of professional and personal failure that would leave me broken and grateful for whatever scraps of affection Bree was willing to throw my way. There's something else, Helena said quietly. We found evidence that your wife has been sharing confidential project information with Voss, who appears to have been passing it along to contacts at competing firms. We're still investigating the full scope of the damage, but there may be legal implications. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Legal implications? Industrial espionage, theft of trade secrets. Depending on what we find, there could be criminal charges. Helena's expression softened slightly. Hayes, I want you to know that you're not under any suspicion. In fact, your loyalty and professionalism throughout this ordeal have been exemplary. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, but I do have a proposition for you. Helena leaned back in her chair, studying my face. Trenwall Innovations is restructuring our technical division. We're looking for someone to head up our new systems security department, someone with both the technical skills and the personal integrity to rebuild what's been compromised. The offer hung in the air between us, like a gift I wasn't sure I deserved. You're offering me a promotion? I'm offering you the chance to help us fix what your wife and her accomplice broke. The position comes with a significant salary increase, a corner office, and your own team of analysts. It also comes with the authority to implement whatever security measures you deem necessary to prevent this kind of sabotage from happening again. I pretended to consider the offer, letting the appropriate amount of time pass before responding. When would you need an answer? How about right now? Your wife and Nathan Voss just handed us a masterclass in how our security can be compromised. I need someone I trust to make sure it never happens again. I stood up and extended my hand. I accept. Helena's smile was sharp and satisfied. Excellent. Your new office is down the hall, corner suite with a view of the river. I'll have IT set up your new access permissions this afternoon. As I left Helena's office, I felt the eyes of my co-workers following me with a mixture of curiosity and respect. In the space of one morning, I'd gone from being the cuckolded husband of a disgraced employee to being the newest member of Trenwall's executive team. My phone buzzed with a text from Bree. Hayes, something terrible has happened. Can you come home? I need you. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, Sorry, stuck in meetings all day. New project just came up. We'll call you tonight. Then I walked to my new corner office, sat down in my new executive chair, and started planning phase 2 of my revenge. The beautiful thing about being underestimated is that it gives you room to maneuver. For 18 years, Bree had seen me as a harmless, predictable husband who could be manipulated and controlled without consequence. Nate had seen me as a pathetic obstacle to be removed through professional sabotage and personal humiliation. They were both about to learn that the quiet guy in the corner had been paying attention all along. And now that I had the resources of Trenwall's security department at my disposal, I was going to teach them exactly how dangerous an underestimated man could be. My first official act as head of systems security was to authorize a comprehensive audit of all company communications and data access for the past year. Perfectly legitimate, completely legal, and guaranteed to uncover every dirty secret that Bree and Nate thought they'd buried. The second was to implement new security protocols that would require all former employees to return any company equipment and submit to exit interviews designed to identify potential security breaches. Bree's company laptop was still sitting in her car, probably full of evidence she thought she'd deleted. Nate's company phone contained 4 months of text messages and photos that would make excellent additions to my growing collection of documentation. By 5 o'clock, I had everything I needed to destroy both of their lives as thoroughly as they'd tried to destroy mine. The only question now was how much I wanted them to suffer before I delivered the final blow. The thing about revenge is that it's most satisfying when your targets understand exactly what's happening to them and why. Random misfortune is just bad luck, but systematic destruction has an elegant poetry to it that speaks to something deep in the human psyche. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Bree's life unravel with the methodical precision of a controlled demolition. It started with her job search. Trenwall's HR department, as a matter of policy, provided only basic employment verification for former employees, dates of service, position held, eligible for rehire. But Helena had made it clear that anyone who called for a more detailed reference would be told that Bree Rellin had been terminated for cause related to security violations and professional misconduct. The first 3 interviews went well, according to Bree. She came home optimistic, talking about exciting opportunities and fresh starts. Then the follow-up calls stopped coming. The 4th company rescinded their offer after the background check. The 5th never called back after checking her references. "I don't understand what's happening," Bree said over dinner on a Thursday night. She'd been home for 2 weeks now, and the forced domesticity was clearly wearing on her. "These are good companies, positions I'm perfectly qualified for. Something's not right." "Maybe it's just a tough market," I suggested, cutting into my steak with surgical precision. "The tech industry's been pretty volatile lately." "No, it's more than that. I can feel it." She pushed food around her plate without eating, her usual appetite apparently a casualty of stress. "Hayes, at Trenwall, when they fired me, did anyone say anything specific about why?" I looked up from my dinner, projecting the right mixture of confusion and concern. "Just that there were some irregularities in project management, nothing specific." "Irregularities like what?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Helena didn't go into details, and honestly, I've been so busy with my new position that I haven't had time to ask around." That was true, technically. I had been busy implementing security protocols that were turning up fascinating information about my wife's activities, busy reviewing financial records that showed a pattern of expense account fraud going back over a year, busy building an airtight case that would ensure Bree never worked in the tech industry again. "Your new position," Bree repeated, and there was something sharp in her voice now. "Isn't it convenient how quickly that came together?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, your wife gets fired on Monday, and by Tuesday, you're head of an entire department. Don't you think that's a little suspicious?" I set down my fork and looked at her directly. "Bree, are you suggesting that I had something to do with what happened to you?" "I don't know what I'm suggesting. I'm just trying to understand how my career gets destroyed while yours suddenly takes off." "Maybe," I said carefully. "Your career got destroyed because you made some poor choices. And maybe my career is taking off because I've been working hard and keeping my nose clean." The silence that followed was thick with unspoken accusations. Bree stared at me across the dinner table as if she were seeing me clearly for the first time in years. "Poor choices," she repeated. "Such as?" "I wouldn't know. Like I said, Helena didn't share specifics. But I could see in her eyes that she was starting to put pieces together. The timing of Helena's offer, my calm acceptance of her termination, the way I'd seemed almost unsurprised by the news of her affair with Nate. "Where's Nate?" I asked casually. "Have you talked to him since all this happened?" Bree's face flushed red. "What does Nate have to do with anything?" "Just curious. I heard he was let go the same day you were. Seems like an odd coincidence." We're not in contact." That was a lie. They'd been texting constantly for the first week, their conversations a mixture of panic, blame, and desperate attempts to figure out what had gone wrong. But their communications had stopped abruptly 3 days ago, right around the time Nate received a visit from Trenwall's legal department regarding potential criminal charges for industrial espionage. That's probably for the best, I said, given the circumstances. What circumstances? Well, if the company suspected some kind of inappropriate relationship, it would be smart to maintain distance until everything blows over. Bree went very still. Who said anything about an inappropriate relationship? I shrugged. Office gossip. You know how people talk. What kind of gossip? Nothing specific, just that maybe you and Nate were spending a lot of time together, working late, that sort of thing. I took another bite of steak, chewing thoughtfully. People notice patterns. People like who? Helena, for one. She mentioned that there might have been some boundary issues. The color drained from Bree's face. Helena said that? Among other things. I reached across the table and took her hand, the gesture requiring considerable self-control. Bree, if there's something you need to tell me, now would be a good time. I'm your husband. Whatever happened, we can work through it. For a moment, I thought she might actually confess. Her eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed my hand like a drowning woman grabbing a life preserver. Hayes, there are things. I've made some mistakes. What kind of mistakes? I don't know where to start. How about at the beginning? She was quiet for a long time, staring down at our joined hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I've been feeling lost lately, like our marriage was just routine, like we were going through the motions without any real connection. She looked up at me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I started spending time with Nate because he made me feel alive again, appreciated. Spending time how? Talking, mostly, about work, about life. He's a good listener. Just talking? The pause before her answer told me everything I needed to know. Mostly. I nodded slowly, as if processing this information for the first time. How long? A few months. Hayes, I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go as far as it did. How far did it go? Another pause. We kissed a few times, but it never went beyond that, I swear. The ease with which she lied was almost impressive. I had photos on my phone that proved exactly how far beyond kissing their relationship had gone, but I wasn't ready to play that card yet. I see, I said quietly. Hayes, please. I know I screwed up, but I want to fix this. I want to fix us. I studied her face, noting the calculated vulnerability in her expression. Even now, caught in her lies, she was trying to manipulate me, trying to control the narrative and minimize the damage. What about the problems at work? The irregularities Helena mentioned? I don't know what she's talking about. Maybe Nate? Maybe he did something and tried to make it look like it was my fault. You think Nate set you up? It's possible. When things started getting complicated between us, he got possessive, demanding. Maybe when I tried to pull back, he decided to get revenge. The speed with which she threw Nate under the bus was breathtaking. No loyalty, no concern for the man she'd been willing to destroy our marriage for, just pure self-preservation. That's a serious accusation, I said. I know, but Hayes, you have to believe me. Whatever happened at work, I wasn't part of it. I would never do anything to hurt the company, or you. I squeezed her hand gently. I believe you. Relief flooded her features. You do? Of course. You're my wife. If you say Nate manipulated you, then that's what happened. She started crying then. Real tears this time, born of relief and gratitude. She came around the table and wrapped her arms around me, burying her face in my shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for understanding. I promise I'll make this right. I held her while she cried, stroking her hair and making soothing noises. But inside, I was calculating. She'd given me everything I needed: admission of the affair, willingness to betray her accomplice, and confirmation that she would say anything to save herself. "There's something else," I said softly. She pulled back to look at me. "What?" "Helena offered me access to the internal investigation files. She thought it might help me understand what happened, maybe even clear your name if Nate was really the one responsible." Hope flickered in her eyes. "Could you do that?" "I could try, but Bree, if I'm going to help you, I need complete honesty. No more secrets, no more lies. Can you promise me that?" "Yes, absolutely. Whatever you need to know, I'll tell you." I smiled and kissed her forehead. "Good. Why don't you go upstairs and get some rest? I'll clean up down here and then take a look at those files." After she left, I sat alone in the dining room, surrounded by the remnants of our dinner and the wreckage of our marriage. Tomorrow, I would show Bree exactly what complete honesty looked like, and then I would destroy her. The Trenwall Innovations annual gala was the kind of corporate event that existed primarily to remind everyone where they stood in the company hierarchy. Held in the ballroom of the Meridian Hotel, it drew 300 employees, clients, and local business leaders for an evening of networking, self-congratulation, and carefully orchestrated social posturing. I'd been planning this moment for 3 weeks, ever since Helena announced that I would be presenting the new security initiatives to the assembled crowd. What she didn't know was that my presentation would include some unexpected supplementary materials. The past month had been a masterclass in psychological warfare. Bree's job prospects had evaporated completely as word spread through Edgewater's tight-knit tech community about her termination for cause. Nate had fled the city entirely after Trenwall's lawyers made it clear that criminal charges were a real possibility. And I had methodically documented every lie, every betrayal, every moment of their systematic campaign to destroy my life. Tonight, I would return the favor. I arrived at the hotel early, ostensibly to test the presentation equipment, but actually to make some final preparations. The ballroom was elegant in an understated way: crystal chandeliers, cream-colored walls, round tables draped in white linen. A stage at the front of the room featured a podium and a large screen for presentations. Helena found me adjusting the microphone levels. "Nervous?" she asked. "Excited," I replied. "I think people are going to find tonight's presentation very illuminating." "Good. The board is particularly interested in your security recommendations. After the Bree situation, they want to make sure we're protected against future internal threats." "Oh, we will be. I can guarantee that." By 7 o'clock, the ballroom was filled with the cream of Edgewater's business community. I spotted several of my former colleagues looking uncomfortable in their rented tuxedos and borrowed confidence. Helena worked the room with practiced ease, introducing clients to board members and making sure everyone felt appropriately important. At 7:30, the lights dimmed and Helena took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Trenwall Innovations' annual celebration. Tonight, we're not just celebrating another successful year, we're looking forward to an even brighter future built on innovation, integrity, and security." Polite applause rippled through the crowd. Helena continued with the usual corporate platitudes about teamwork and excellence, but I barely heard her. I was focused on the presentation remote in my pocket and the flash drive containing my real presentation materials. "This year has brought some challenges," Helena was saying, "but it's also shown us the importance of having people we can trust in positions of responsibility. Tonight, I'm proud to introduce our new head of system security, Hayes Rellin, who will be sharing some important updates about how we're protecting our company's future." More applause as I walked to the podium. The stage lights were bright enough that I couldn't make out individual faces in the audience, but I knew they were all there. Every person who had witnessed Bree's public humiliation of me at the last company gathering. "Thank you, Helena. Good evening, everyone." I adjusted the microphone and smiled at the crowd. 3 months ago, I stood in a room very much like this one and learned something important about the people closest to me. Tonight, I thought I'd share some of those lessons with all of you. I clicked the presentation remote and the screen behind me lit up with the Trenwall logo. Security threats come in many forms: external hackers, corporate espionage, data breaches. But the most dangerous threats are often the ones we never see coming, the ones that come from inside our own organizations, from people we trust. Another click. The screen now showed a timeline labeled Internal Security Breach, Case Study. Over the past 6 months, Trenwall experienced a systematic campaign of internal sabotage. Project timelines were deliberately altered. Communications were intercepted and deleted. Confidential information was shared with outside parties. Tonight, I want to walk you through exactly how this happened, and more importantly, who was responsible. I could see Helena in my peripheral vision, looking puzzled but not yet alarmed. The audience was paying attention now, leaning forward in their seats. Click. The screen showed email logs with names redacted. The perpetrators of this campaign were clever. They used their legitimate access to company systems to cover their tracks. They exploited personal relationships to gain additional access, and they counted on their victims being too trusting, too naive, or too embarrassed to fight back. Click. Network access logs showing patterns of after-hours activity. But here's the thing about security systems: they remember everything. Every login, every file access, every email sent or deleted. And when you know what to look for, patterns emerge. I paused, letting the tension build in the room. The 2 individuals responsible for this breach thought they were smarter than our security measures. They thought they could destroy a colleague's career, steal company secrets, and carry on their personal relationship using company resources without anyone noticing. Click. The screen now showed a photo of Bree and Nate in a passionate embrace, taken by a security camera in one of Trenwall's conference rooms. A gasp went up from the audience. I heard someone whisper, "Is that Bree Rellin?" They were wrong. Click. Text messages between Bree and Nate discussing their plans to sabotage my work. For 6 months, these individuals systematically undermined a fellow employee while conducting their affair using company time and resources. They deleted emails, changed project specifications, and shared confidential information with competitors. Click. Financial records showing unauthorized expenses. They also stole from the company, using corporate credit cards to fund their personal relationship. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, weekend getaways, all charged to Trenwall while they planned their colleagues' professional destruction. The room was silent now. I could see Helena's face clearly from the stage. She looked shocked but not displeased. This was exactly the kind of dramatic revelation that would justify her decision to terminate Bree and Nate. But the most interesting part of this case study isn't the corporate espionage or the expense account fraud. It's the personal dimension. You see, the colleague they were targeting wasn't just a random coworker. He was someone much closer to home. Click. A wedding photo of Bree and me taken 18 years ago. The employee they spent 6 months trying to destroy was Bree Rellin's husband. That would be me. The silence in the room was now absolute. 300 people sat frozen in their chairs, afraid to move or speak. Some of you were here 3 months ago, when my wife decided to entertain everyone with stories about our personal life, when she told jokes about my supposed inadequacies and made me the laughingstock of the company. What you didn't know then, what I didn't know then, was that she was already deep into an affair with Nathan Voss, and that both of them were actively sabotaging my career. Click. Audio files of recorded conversations between Bree and Nate. Tonight, I thought you might like to hear what they really thought about me, and about all of you. I played a 30-second clip of Bree and Nate laughing about how stupid their colleagues were, how easy it was to manipulate the corporate sheep, how pathetic I was for not seeing what was happening right under my nose. When the audio stopped, I looked out at the audience with a smile that felt sharp enough to cut glass. The good news is that both individuals have been terminated and are facing potential criminal charges. The better news is that their actions have helped us identify significant weaknesses in our security protocols, which we're now addressing. Click. The screen returned to the Trenwall logo. But the best news of all is that sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up giving you exactly what you need to rebuild yourself into something stronger, something they never saw coming. I stepped back from the podium and gestured toward Helena. Ladies and gentlemen, your CEO, Helena Trenwall. The applause that followed was uncertain, scattered, and died quickly. Helena took the microphone with the expression that suggested she was still processing what had just happened. Well, she said after a moment, I think we can all agree that Hayes has given us a very comprehensive overview of our security challenges and solutions. I walked off the stage and through the crowd, which parted before me like water. Conversations started up behind me as I passed, excited whispers and shocked exclamations as people began processing what they'd just witnessed. At the back of the ballroom, I found Sophie waiting for me. She'd driven down from college for the gala, and her face was pale with shock. Dad, she said quietly, what did you just do? I told the truth. You humiliated Mom in front of 300 people. No, sweetheart, your mother humiliated herself. I just made sure everyone understood exactly what kind of person she really is. Sophie stared at me as if she were seeing me for the first time. This isn't like you. Maybe the person you thought you knew was never really me at all. Maybe I've just been playing a role for so long that everyone forgot I was capable of anything else. What happens now? I looked back toward the stage, where Helena was trying to restore some normalcy to the evening's proceedings. In a few hours, video of my presentation would be all over social media. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Edgewater's business community would know exactly what Bree Rellin had done to her husband and her employer. Her career was finished. Her reputation was destroyed. Her life as she'd known it was over. Now, I said, I go home and start figuring out what comes next. I walked out of the ballroom and into the cool October night, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage and the comfortable fiction that I was just another harmless, predictable corporate drone. For 18 years, I'd been the supporting character in someone else's story. Tonight, I'd finally taken center stage, and I'd made damn sure everyone would remember my performance.